Hello everyone, this is David with the fish. It's July 28th, 27th, something like that. Last week in July, I'm down here in the basement, and one of the most common questions I get on live foods is, are white worms and grindal worms the same thing? What's the difference? And recently I've gotten several questions of, which one do I want? That always gets the first question is, what kind of fish do you keep? Because it makes a huge difference. But let's start and go over with what's the difference between white worms and grindal worms. To start off with temperature requirements. White worms want to be in the 50s Fahrenheit. Maybe they'll get by in low 60s, but I know I keep mine in a wine cooler, 53, 54 degrees all the time. And they're very happy with that. So they have to be kept cool. Grindal worms, on the other hand, are very happy at room temperature. Nothing like the same temperature we have that we're comfortable with or kind of hot with. I'm down in the basement and it's about 77 degrees, and the grindal worms are very happy. Now, food-wise, what do you feed the little boogers? Well, the white worms, best food ever, and I've tested over the last 15-20 years everything known to humanity. Whole wheat bread, plain, with the live bacteria, acidophilus stuff, yogurt or kefir, and nutritional yeast. This gives you maximum production. Other people will tell you all kinds of things you would feed them. Go for it. Sounds great to me. I need all the worms I can grow for the space I have available to them. This is for the white worms. The yogurt and the kefir in the refrigerator will not go bad. Grindal worms, since we make our own dog food, and I don't have a cat, and I don't want to buy a 50-pound bag of stuff or a 5-pound bag, I'm always looking for little things to feed. At the moment on grindal worms, I'm having good success with the Blue Wilderness cat treats chicken flavor. What I'm looking for is something I can actually get open, which is always a challenge. I'm looking for little pellets that I can wet, and it will get the grindal worms to concentrate in a given area. I've seen where some people are feeding regular bread or nutritional yeast without the yogurt. I probably ought to give that a try and see how that would work, because this little bag is a couple bucks and it lasts a while, but not as long as I wish. So that's the food differences. Now, what is the media? They're both in small plastic containers, plastic shoe boxes, but there's some kind of media. What I'm using right now is the Miracle-Gro Seed Starter Potting Mix. I also have one by Jiffy. I also have some by Fairy Morse. Whatever I can find. This is what I'm looking for. If it says it has fertilizer in it, don't worry about it. It's those little time-release pellets, and there's so few of them that they will not cause you any problems. So, what do the worms look like when they're grown? It's time to harvest from the worms, and I'm feeding. So here's my whole wheat bread, my yogurt that's got living cultures in it, and my nutritional yeast. I keep a container of water. Now, I'm going to peel off the lid, and you'll see there's some worms on the lid. That's always a good sign. Wet your finger and they come right off. Nice and clean. They'll be along the inside as they're growing. Off with your fingers again. If you're squeamish, do something else. I don't know if this works with gloves on or not. I'm not squeamish about this. Now, I'll also hear from people, the worms don't eat the bread. At first they don't. As you can see on this, they've eaten all the yogurt and everything off of it. and the nutritional yeast, but not so much on the bread. Here they're starting to. There's a few in here. And then this piece of bread here has got a good chunk of it missing. So it's getting pretty thin. Now, I will put on these size containers occasionally 2, 3 pieces if I have them. Grab any more worms I see going by, and I'm off to the next container. The longer you have them out of the cooler, the more they will sink down into the dirt, and while I'm standing here yakking about them, they're disappearing. So I'm not getting as many as there really are. So, as you can see, that piece, when you get them like this, I take a little putty knife and I just kind of scrape them off. You let a little bit of dirt go away over the lifetime of the container, you'll find you've lost most of your dirt. So, kind of got to work on keeping the dirt going. So, we got a little piece in the middle, and there we go for these guys. Right back after I grab. I have 6 containers of these guys going, so I use 4.5 pieces of bread, and I cut each piece of bread into 4 pieces. Now, if you look at this one, if I can set this over here, if you look at this one, you'll see this piece of bread's completely gone. This one, see, is almost gone. And this one, almost gone. So, they do eat the bread. But you got to have enough worms in there and enough bacteria growing in your soil for them to be eating that bread. So, this culture tomorrow will probably be scary. There'll be so many worms up and out of it. Ooh, this one's got a good bunch. Very nice. Yum yum. Since I'm doing this out here where the light is, and there's not a lot of room, I got to swap around now and go get the other bread. And we're going to switch out one piece of bread because that goes to Mr. Bailey. Now we have this much left for the remaining cultures. So, there we go. There we go, and one of these. And we did that one, so I'm off to get the last 2 containers. Here's the last 2. Wet my spatula. I'm not really going to scoop. Put the food underneath the plastic grating, so that you'll collect worms on top of the grating that come out incredibly clean. Alright, here's this one, this little guy, and this little guy. Now, all this leftover bread, I'm really doing these a day early, but I got time to make the video right now, so that's why there's a lot of stuff left. I don't have time tomorrow to make it. I feed every 2 to 3 days. I take a peek in, see how much bread I got left. If they haven't eaten all the stuff, I may wait a third day. But usually it's 2 days, 2 to 3 days. Here's another one. Another one. And that takes care of the white worms. I will pour this water off and rinse them, and then I'll move over and we'll now show how you do the feeding and collecting of the grindal worms. Now then, since my little fish companion is beside himself, we're gonna have to go. Where's the camera? Here's the piece I saved for him. So I gotta kind of turn it sideways, otherwise it sticks to the roof of his mouth. As it is, this is kind of a short story. That good stuff? Yeah, you like that. A little whole wheat bread, little yogurt with some good bacteria for his gut, and nutritional yeast for all those B vitamins. That's pretty good stuff for the little guy. Alright, let's move over to the grindal worms. I've been keeping them in a somewhat smaller container, only because I haven't come up with a lid, tight-fitting lid for a larger container. Now, as you look in here, you can see my three little pieces of food, and they're all fungusy. They do that till they eat it all. So you just pick the little fungusy pieces out, leave the dirt behind, and the worms. And you'll see that I've got some growth coming. These are pretty new cultures, haven't had them a long time, and I've been trying to, as fast as I can, split them out to make more cultures. Put some food in here to be soaking. Does better if it's damp. You don't want it to dry the worms out, because it will suck the moisture right out of them. So you kind of want these things to be a little bit damp. So we're going to move on. We're just going to leave that one. We're going to come back and feed it. Here's another one. Boy, I went crazy feeding this guy. Putting food in here, didn't I? This almost looks like I spilled it in here. Needless to say, you don't want to put this much food in one. Wow, I don't know what I was thinking, or why I decided to not be thinking. But despite there being way too much food, you can see we've got some worms in here. Now I'm actually, because of the video, going to finger out some worms because I need it to feed to show you the differences. So normally I would not, but I need a few. So I can show you why one may or may not be better than the other one. Now that we have this, put a little bit of fresh food in here where there's actually some guys to eat it. And we'll backtrack to this first one. Put a couple pieces. And we'll move on to the third one. I think this third one is the one I just made up. No, this one's been here a while. As you can see, we've got some worms in here. So we're going to snatch a few out. And we're going to pull out the old food. You know, my nemesis on these guys is always mites. Always. I get them going, I get them going, I get them going, and the mites move in. And just wipe them out. And I can already see a few in here. The interesting part is this will be a brand new bag of potting mix. When I can, I will actually bake it, get it really, really hot. This is a brand new little midget bag of food. There is no reason in the world I should have mites. Yet, I always do. Don't know where they come from, but they're nasty things. Alright, I'm going to go rinse this and clean some of this up, and then we'll talk about what the differences is after you've harvested these guys. Alright, I've cleaned things up. Now let's see if I can get a close-up and so you can see what the difference is between these two kinds of worms when it comes to what size fish will eat them. Now, very, very easy to see. There's the white worms. Now we're going to slide over and look at the Grindal worms. These are the little Grindal worms. As you can see, they are only a fraction of the size of these white worms. So what you're looking at is that I find Grindal worms are for fry that are, you just can't get them stuffed with brine shrimp anymore. But these guys are frightening to them. Grindal worms will keep that growth spurt going. Daphne will too, but man, Daphne is hard. And Daphne requires big buckets of water, and if I have a big bucket of water, I'd rather have fish in it. So there's your Grindal worms. There's your white worms. Now let me set this up and I'll show you the difference when you're trying to feed fish with them. Alright, here's a 5-gallon tank with some Harlequin rasboras and some Beckford's pencilfish. Now I'm going to put just 1 or 2 white worms in there and you're going to see what happens. They grab it, but they can't even get it in their mouths. It's just so big. Now let's do the same thing with some of these little Grindal worms. And here you see, these guys are having no trouble eating the Grindal worms. And the white worms will end up either in that one guy's mouth, dream around forever, or spit out to rot in your tank. Now, if we move just a little bit and come over here to some young starbay, let's try them with some white worms. And as you can see, even though they're only at the maybe 2-inch size, got a long way to go, they can just inhale these white worms. That's telling me that the Grindal worms, while they can eat them, they're going to need a lot of them to get full. That's a lot of work, and that's a lot of worms. I'd rather feed them these white worms and get them fat very quickly. Here comes another guy up. Word gets out quick that the food's up. Man, they just inhale that. Wow. Now, how about some nice full-grown panda cories? I'm not even going to bother with the Grindal worms because you know how that story's going to go. And that becomes feeding frenzy. No problem eating these white worms at all. Once again, it's a case of those little tiny Grindal worms. It'd be hard if they can find them. they'll eat them. They'll eat brine shrimp, but you'll never get them full. You're not going to get them into breeding condition feeding them baby brine shrimp and grindal worms. White worms, though, different story. Alright, now let's try this combination on some. These are male Apistogramma, Corydoras, orange. And these are white worms. As you can see, these are disappearing at a high rate of speed. In fact, I don't think anybody made it to the bottom. Let's get some more and see how it does over with the females. So now we'll come over here where the females are. And even though the females are smaller, they're more than 2-inch size, they're able to handle the white worms without any problem at all. Once again, I hate to be feeding them grindal worms because it'll just take millions of them. Just for the comparisons, I'll get some grindal worms and see what happens over here with the Corydoras orange. And as you can see, with the grindal worms, they'll eat them, but it takes a lot of them, and it's going to be hard to fill them up on a worm that's that small. In fact, as you can see, they don't even notice them. Not all the fish are. Oh, there's a little guy came over and said, "Oh, here's some." They're so small, they're not even first in the list. At the same time, your smallest. Where'd he go? There's a little guy over here, as you can see. He's got a bigger white worm that he really knows what to do with. But he'll swim around, or somebody will go over and snatch it and pull it out. Oh, he's trying to suck it in. So you know that white worm is about to... Oh, there's back out again. It's like a lollipop. Alright, let's try some grindal worms on some neon tetras. Yes. Neon tetras discovered grindal worms the day I brought them home. It is an outstanding size food for your smaller tetras. Just outstanding. White worms, they have trouble, you know, it's another case of swimming around with them. So, outstanding for your smaller tetras. Now over to the big tank with the Apistogrammas, they'll actually eat at the ancestors, but what we've got here is a whole lot of really big cherry barbs. And white worms fit their menu requirements. It's hard to show you how they do with them, they eat them so fast. Now let's move up and see how the German blue rams are going to do. I think I fed them too many bloodworms this morning. No, as you can see, they're doing just fine on the white worms, but they're German blue rams are kind of funny. They're kind of shy. I mean, they'll be mean to each other, but they're kind of shy. And the white worms down there squiggling around are kind of scary. So sometimes they do better on grindals even though they're so small. Boy, is that guy gorgeous or what? So's this one. I got 3 setups in here for them pairing off. If I can just get them to pair off, I'll have some pairs available. So, I'm hoping that you could see that which one is better, white worms or grindal worms, entirely depends upon what size fish, what size mouths you're feeding. If you've got small mouths, fry, small tetras, grindal worms are better. If you've got, you know, adult cories, Pisto-sized fish, whatever, white worms are fabulous. But when you're raising to fry, the grindals come out great right after. They're not really getting full up on baby brine shrimp. Then you go to the grindals and keep that growth spurt going. So I keep both. I manage to keep white worms all the time. Grindal worms I fight with the mites. I have to keep starting over with them. But I still keep doing it because they're such a fabulous food. So this is David with a fish, comparing white worms and grindal worms. You have to decide which one is best for you. And if you've made it all the way to this point, is that a male or a female? Man, the color's incredible, but it's got those black pecks. Is that a male or a female? Wow. If it's a female, it's going to be a breeder. If it's a male, I don't know what he's doing with the black fins.